Hello, good morning. Welcome to October 25th, 2020, at the Unity Spiritual Center of Anchorage, where we are about transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in their world. I'm Reverend Rachel, and I would like to start with acknowledging with gratitude that I stand on the land of the Dena'ina people with gratitude to all the people who have come before me on this land. And so we start with prayer, friends. I just invite you into a settled in place, a place of connection, of sanctuary. We may be in our homes, but we carry sanctuary with us wherever we go. And so we take this time today to be centered, to be here, to allow wisdom to arise, to allow connection and heart centeredness to be the order of the day. And so, with gratitude and joy, we send these prayers of peace for our world, for understanding, for wisdom out, that they may do good. And so it is. Amen. So I put together a special treat for us. Well, I didn't really do much except for plan it. That counts, right? Yes. Okay. So I totally practiced this. There we go. Hold on. Today I just really enjoy I have a Daniel Nahmod song for you. I really enjoy this song. I think it touches something, and I think it relates a lot to some of the things some of us might be feeling right now, and maybe not. So here we go. Here's a song.
is offending, disappointing,
Well, so I hear that you all were not hearing the sound, so that's disappointing. Go listen to that song. That's too bad. I thought I tested it. All right. Well, that fits right well in with what we're talking about today, which is not arguing with what's happening. So, good news is we can head over to Nancy for the absolute word. So here she comes.
Good morning. Can you hear me all? Hopefully. Today's word is inner knowing. I listen. I listen to the voice of my inner knowing. During the course of the day, I hear all kinds of things. Conversations, music, natural sounds, traffic noise, and my inner mind chatter. Sometimes I mindlessly focus on all that I'm hearing. This limits my ability to hear my other voice, the higher voice of my inner knowing, the voice of my highest consciousness using my divinity. When I become aware of this, I am more intentional about deeply listening. As I listen, I open my heart and hear the voice of inner knowing. Its comforting, guiding presence feels like a homecoming. As I settle into a tranquil environment, I breathe easily and deeply. I relax my mind and body with ease and grace. I listen to the voice of my inner knowing. I listen.
Thank you, Nancy. My ukulele strap was trying to not cooperate. And some days are just like that, right? Anyway, that's the way it is. So good thing we have meditation next, right? All right, let's do that. Meditation. From here on out, we don't have any complicated technical things to do. So we should be good to go. So let's just settle into meditation. Maybe you want to find a comfortable way to sit. Maybe you want to close your eyes at any time. And since you're at home, and even if you weren't, you can sing peace, peace, peace. You can sing love, 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 joy, joy, joy. Whatever touches your heart this moment and this time. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, peace, peace. Peace I am. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, peace, peace. Peace I am. Peace, peace, peace. I invite you to just breathe into that peace, that love, wisdom of just finding some stillness. Letting the shoulders relax. letting each muscle group just settle. And with it, letting the mind settle. If concerns or worries arise, just gently say, peace, peace, peace. I am peace. I am here to be love and action. Just relax. Peace, peace, peace is who I've come here to be. And so we rest in the gentleness of the peace, of the inner fire of love, wisdom, strength, courage. That is the truth of our being. And so we just breathe. relaxing the shoulders. Peace is who I am. Love is who I came here to be. Joy, wisdom, strength, my guide. And so we just take a few moments in this place of peace and connection to be in gratitude. Just simple gratitude. Feel your heart fill with that warm feeling of connection, of care, of love, appreciation. And so as we begin to bring our awareness back to this place and this time and this moment, maybe you feel the chair supporting the body. Remember that feeling of spaciousness. Remember that it's only ever a conscious breath away. And so it is. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, peace, peace. Peace I am. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, peace, peace. Peace I am. Peace, peace, peace. All right. You know, one of the advantages of for me to do church from home is that I never leave my notes somewhere else. Remember, sometimes I would accidentally leave my notes like in the chair or in the office or, God forbid, at home. Doesn't happen anymore. So there's a silver lining. So I titled today's talk, The Heart of the Matter, because everything that we do, it's good to stay heart-centered. And to remember that the desire to be heart-centered is, or should be, one of the guiding principles or the guiding lights to our spiritual journey. Others might say use the word compassion instead of heart-centered. Any word you want to use in that vein is fine. So a few things I wanted to talk about today. Well, I wanted to start. So we've been doing the Eye of the Storm class, right? And we've been talking about that. And this is really about being the I, like the letter I, me, in the storm, right? And maybe you've noticed that there seems to be lots of storms going on and lots of reasons and ways to feel out of alignment or discombobulated. Have you noticed that? So, isn't it great to review some of the tools that we have at hand? And so in the book, The Eye of the Storm, Gary Simmons, the author, talks about, in case you wanted to see what the book looks like that. It doesn't come with tabs. Those were mine. So he talks about the 4 winds of conflict. And I thought that this was it's very interesting because it helps us be aware of what these things are. And if we're aware of them, then maybe we can notice them when they're happening. And then maybe we can shift it. So knowledge is power, right? So the 4 winds of conflict, and you don't need to take notes, but the 4 winds of conflict are judgment, misperception, competition, and defensive-ness. That sounds, I'm guessing that you are like, yeah, that sounds like good, solid ground for conflict, for discord, for disconnection, for all sorts of things, right? Judgment, misperception, competition, and defensiveness. But the good news is each one of them has an antidote, which is excellent because then we know what to do. And here's the thing. Whenever you're in a spot, going to your center, tuning into your inner wisdom, tuning into what would love do is the answer. So now you already know that's the answer. Of course, you have to follow through with it So the antidote to judgment is communion. Because so much of judgment, and we're not talking about judgment because judgment is also one of our 12 powers. We're not talking about the judgment where you say, this is one choice and this is another choice, and you're deciding, right? You're deciding power. We're not talking about that. We're talking about judgment, how we use it often in our common culture, which is with a condemnatory, condemning, there we go, feeling behind it. That kind of judgment. And often that kind of judgment comes from a miscommunication or miscommunion. That kind of judgment comes from when you went this way and they went that way, or you meant this and they meant that, right? And so to create communion when there's judgment, we get to stand in our braveness and say, tell me more. When something seems like that came out of left field or that's coming at me and you want to say, no, that's not what happened. Listen. Because it's so often I assume we've all done this where we heard someone say something, we thought we knew what they meant. And then you find out later that you didn't. Or I've had someone, this was wonderful actually, because you're in a big room with a bunch of people and you walk in the room and you're doing your thing. And then, and you see someone across the room, but you never make it over there because there's so many other people, right? And so I had one time a person actually message me and say, hey, I saw you come in the room and then it looked like you turned around and completely ignored me. Are you mad at me? And so they created connection and communion by asking the question because they wanted to know if there was something going on there. Isn't that wonderful? And I was just like, hey, I just never made it across the room to see you. But instead of making up a whole bunch of stories about what it meant on their end, or maybe they had, but then they realized, oh, I could just ask. So see, we can have communion and connection if we simply are willing to ask. But it has to be done. But it only happens if we have a desire for a heart connection, right? If we don't have a desire for a heart connection, we can just let it go on forever and ever and ever. So the next wind of conflict is misperception. And the antidote for misperception is principle. Misperception often sees only one possibility of what could be happening, right? In my previous example, that other person could have decided, well, what this means is that she doesn't like me, or she thinks that this thing I did was stupid, whatever, right? She could have made up whatever story that she wanted. Because that was the default that she went to. But principle means that instead of filling in the gaps of the things that we don't know, because we are always filling in gaps of things that we don't know, our brains cannot process all the information comes to us. It fills in the gaps. It's like, did you know that your computer holds on to information of websites you go to? And so when you're going to a website you go to frequently, it already knows what information to put in there, and it puts it in there to make it your experience faster. Our brains do that too. Oh, unfortunately, sometimes our brains get it wrong and they fill in the wrong information, or they fill in the wrong story about what's happening. And so if we want to counterbalance misperception, we need to fill it up with the idea that we want to fill all the gaps with love or God. And so when we realize that there are unlimited amounts of possibilities of things that could happen, why don't we choose a different one? Instead of choosing the one that our brain has chosen for us, that's about our story of not enoughness, it's about how they don't like us, it's about all of the, the time that the kids weren't nice to you at the playground, whatever it is, right? Whatever your brain has tried to fill in, just say, wait, no, there's unlimited possibilities of outcomes. And one of those possibilities of outcomes could be a heart connection with me and this person. That could be good. And here's the thing. It doesn't even have to be a tight thing. It could be that you're walking down the street, or, well, let's say you're driving along in traffic. Not that we have a lot of traffic here in Anchorage, and somebody does something that you don't think that they should do. Well, you could make up a story about how they're a jerk, or you could choose another story, which is like maybe they were rushing a sick loved one to the hospital. Now, it could be that they're a jerk, but which one is more useful for you and your spirit to believe? Would you rather default that people are good or that people are jerks? Which one feeds your soul? Which one gives you the ability to continue to show up in the world as who you want to be? Now, they're probably not rushing a loved one to the hospital, but there's a million other reasons that they could have done the thing that you thought. And here's the thing. Once you decide to make the choice of compassion for that person and their choices, after a while, you don't even need to make up a story. You just bless them and let them go. And you don't even have to have a thing about it. Isn't that a great idea? So fill the gaps with love. Choose a different story. And so the next misperception, or the next wind, sorry, not misperception, that was the last one. The next wind of conflict is competition. Juicy. And the antidote for competition is purpose. So in competition, you may say, stand up and say, this is the way. This is the way there's a rigidity to it, right? The way is the right way. But here's the thing. Let me read to you from the book. Here's a hint. If you are judging, blaming, fearful, dishonest, unwilling, unforgiving, doubting, stubborn, unkind, or just plain negative, you are likely in the way of God. And that can be hazardous to your health. We have come here to be expressions of the divine, of God, of love, of wisdom, all of those things. Do you believe that? I hope you believe that, because that's why we're here, right? So if we are here to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be, and we're not in competition with anyone else, because everyone is here to be the best versions of they can be. And if we really want to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be, then it doesn't matter if so-and-so you perceive them to be further along on the process than you are, because that's not what it's about. It's all about our own journey and moving forward. So instead of saying it has to be a certain way, because when we do that, we're in the way of God, we need to remember instead that we are the way of God. We are here to be the hands and the feet, the hearts, the loving of Spirit. We're here to not only transform our own lives, but to show up as a positive transformation in our world. So I'm not talking about competition when you're playing family game night. That's a fun thing to do, right? I'm talking about how we have to be right and have to be rigid. And I would guess most of us have had an experience where we really thought we knew the right way to do things, and then we learned a new way. I mean, most of us are doing things lots different than we were just a few months ago. And then even then, we're still doing things lots different than when we grew up, because the way to do things has changed. But the way to do things from our heart, that doesn't change. The way to show up as peace and kindness, compassion, that doesn't change, right? So that's a better thing to stay focused on, I say. And the final wind of change of conflict is defensiveness. And the antidote is non-resistance. Let's just breathe that in. The wind of conflict is defensiveness, and the antidote is non-resistance. So what does that look like? Well, it's very easy when someone tells us that we're not doing something that the way that they want us to whip out our list and tell them all the reasons why that's not true. It's sort of like judgment in that way. But instead, we just say, oh, this is where we're at. So a couple years ago, when Bill and I went to Italy, we had landed, we'd traveled forever and ever and ever, because it takes forever to get there, right? So we'd landed at the Rome airport. We were taking the train into the city, and that in and of itself was an ordeal to figure out, because I thought I'd figured out what we needed to do, but we were sleep deprived and all that. So we're on the train trying to go into town, and we're like, oh, the next stop starts with a T, and where we needed to get off started with a T. And so then all of a sudden we're like, wait, is this where we're supposed to get off? I don't know. And so then we get off the train. And so then we're looking around, and I have the map and the place we're staying is only like 4 blocks from the train station. So I'm like, okay, we can figure this out. And I'm looking around. And I'm like, none of these roads, nothing matches the map. And, you want to be defensive. Well, I thought this was like the whole thing. There can be a whole drama around that. But the fact of the matter is we're not in the right place. We got off at the wrong train station. And you can make a whole bunch of reasons for it. But the fact of the matter is you're at the wrong train station. Now, you could sit there and fight the fact for as long as you wanted, but it's much easier to just be non-resistant and say, okay, we're at the wrong train station. So how are we going to get to our hotel? So the sooner you accept the situation, not saying that you think it's okay, but that you just acknowledge this is the situation, instead of trying to defend it, to resist it, you can move on. That map that I was trying to use to find their way to the hotel was never going to work because it was the wrong train station. GPS cannot tell you how to get where you want to go without knowing where you're at. So, quickly figured out, not the right place. Said, okay, guess it's time to just get a cab. And did that. We got to where we needed to be because we were too tired to try to figure that out. And also just realizing, okay, we're too tired to figure this out. Instead of resisting, allowing that ease can come from just being where you're at. And so that's the heart of the matter. And so I wanted to mention, so first of all of these things, we say all of these things because it helps us to recognize when we're doing something that's life affirming or that's getting in the way, right? Are we in the way of God? Or are we acting as the way of God? Are we choosing to be rigid in our own way, or that there's only one way? Or are we allowing that there's multiple possibilities, allowing that the gaps can be filled up with compassion and love? Coming from our heart is so important. And here's the other thing. If you're in conflict with a person, if they're abusive or not interested in making a heart connection, it's not going to work. You just need to move on. Sometimes that is the way out of the conflict. That's non-resistance, right? There is a person who's in a group that I'm in who really seems to want to, I don't know what their deal is, wants to go pick at me. And I've pretty much just decided that I'm not going to try, because there's no heart connected way to connect with this person that I have learned of yet. And so the best thing to do is to just not. Now, there's some people in your life that you can do that with because you don't have to deal with them on a day-to-day basis. If there is someone you do need to deal with on a day-to-day basis, you're probably going to have to do something more active than that. So that's where your wisdom comes in. What's mine to do in this situation? And so I wanted to mention that today, or this month, the Unity 12 power of the month is zeal, also known as enthusiasm, also known as devotion. And so I wanted to mention that because, well, it's the end of October and I hadn't mentioned it yet, which is surprising because I love zeal, but it seems like it's a complicated time right now, right? It seems like maybe some people are saying or thinking that having any joy in our lives while all these other things are going on, there might be criticism. And I get that. And at the same time, I also believe that finding ordinary joy, day-to-day joy, is so important. But zeal is actually not the same thing as joy. Joy is a feeling of elation. Zeal is a movement. And so I wanted to bring up devotion because devotion is a consistency that is vital in life, but even in these times that we're living in. Devotion is continuing to be plugged into that inner fire, to remember the inner fire and say, I will continue to show up as love no matter what. Devotion is, I will sit here at my meditation mat even when it seems impossible. Devotion is, I will continue to support the things that are important to me, even when it seems impossible. We do these things from the wisdom within us, from the inner fire within us, the zeal of movement. Zeal is like the fire in our engines. The good kind of fire, steam in our, anyway, you know what I mean. It's the fire in our engines that continue to keep us on the path. And so even when it's painful or difficult or not how we'd like to be, devotion is the thing that helps us show up and say, this is important. I'm going to show up even when it's hard. And it may be the thing that makes us show up to the relationship that's hard. It may help us show up to saying, okay, I get that there's conflict in this situation, but I can show up even though it's hard. And it may also be through that devotion and wisdom that you realize that the path of non-resistance, the path of being the way of God, is to choose another path. We're not meant to be in relationship with everyone all the time. We're not. It's okay. So, but can we do that moving on without malice? Because that's about what we hold in our heart, and it has nothing to do with them, right? We don't want to do that. So I don't want to do that, at least. So the heart of the matter is that it is way harder, so much harder to keep a soft heart. It's so much, feels safer to be defensive. It feels so much safer to put up walls. It feels so much safer to judge others and put them in boxes of being wrong or stupid or ignorant. So much easier to do that. So much doesn't take any work. But we are called as spiritual practitioners to do more than that, to keep a soft heart, to step up and say, whether we're saying it out loud to the person or whether we're saying it in our heart, I am not putting a wall between myself and you because what you said hurt my feelings, but that I can step in. Like I said, they're abusive or not interested in a heart connection. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about real connections, an opportunity to show up to ourselves. At least, can we show up to ourselves that way? I believe that this is how we make a consciousness shift in our world. Each of us doing our part is making a difference of how we are in the world. All of us. So that's the heart of the matter. So, friends, a few little bits and things to know. We are having we'll have fellowship here in a minute, and then we're going to have my mouse is not turning on. Come on. Okay. When we have a fellowship, we have a congregational meeting at 11:30. And although we might start early, I suppose, if everybody's there. You do not have to be a member to attend the congregational meeting, but you don't get to vote. And this will be on the topic of the possibility of releasing our physical meeting space for now. So if you'd like to attend that, it'll be over on the Zoom link that was in the e-news. Let's see. Not anything else going on this week other than meditation on our Facebook page is at noon every day. And if for some reason it's not there on our Facebook page, it might be because it's one of the days that someone else is leading the meditation and I may not have shared it. You can always find it at the Northwest Region page. And let's see. Yeah. So there you go. So I will see you all at fellowship. And so let's bring up, this is our prayer of protection. And so let's just take a moment to add to the circle anyone who's on our hearts today. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love of God. The power of God protects us. We are the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. We are the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and so it is. So it is, friends. So head over to the Zoom link if you'd like to hang out and join the conversation. Thank you to our monthly givers. If you would like to contribute, you can head over to our donate page and support this ministry. We certainly appreciate it. And thank you for joining us. And thank you for being the light that you are in the world.